Right, so as you probably guessed already, it's a recap and a review of the most boring horror show ever, called 666 Park Avenue. I don't really understand how they managed to get such a bad show, because basically all the job was already done for them by Murphy and his American Horror Story. I can't wait to see the second season of that, whereas 666 Park Avenue, I don't know if I should even bother watching, because the characters, they are just flat and you can't possibly like or feel something for them. Jane is just annoying. I hope she's gonna die in there. She's nosy, she thinks she's always right. She's just boring. Not as much as her not husband. He's just very disengaged with anything that's going on in the building. He was supposed to be a resident manager as well. I don't think he's doing any job at all. There's absolutely nothing in his character that would make me feel that he's a keeper, because most of the time he's just scared of saying something, from the inside information from his job at the mayor's. If you can't hold your tongue, you're definitely not ready for this kind of job where you all the time come across to the information that you're not supposed to share with anyone. So in this episode, Gavin basically made some sort of reliability check on Henry. He mentioned that he's buying some property, which Henry knew was located on a toxic wasteland, but he was not supposed to leak this information. So he's afraid to lose his job as a resident manager, or at the mayor's, I guess. So he can decide what to do, if he should say or if he shouldn't, and then eventually he does the right thing, which means that he keeps his ass away from jail, because I believe if you leak this kind of information, you can actually be sentenced. I don't understand what is so reliable about the guy. He just played by the rules, and he did disclose everything to his girlfriend. I don't think he was supposed to either, so I'm very skeptical about his character. What else happened in the episode is that Jane got to know that Mr. Barlow, the one that was eaten by the wallpaper in the last episode, moved out, and she comes to check his apartment if that needed some renovation or something, and she hears the noise, and as she takes down a part of the wall, a bunch of birds burst into the apartment, and then they break a window and go outside. I just want to mention here that the special effects in the 666 Park Avenue so far have been a little lame, and not including the birds. First, I couldn't even tell if those there the birds or the bats. In my country now, the birds are getting ready for a trip to the south, so I basically can look out the window any moment and see a flock training, and it doesn't look exactly like what I've seen in the episode, so in there it is too graphical. You can easily point out that it's an artificial thing. So even though Jane was warned that she shouldn't do anything about that, she calls for an exterminator. We actually already seen the exterminator in the American Horror Story, and of course it didn't end well for the guy there, and naturally the exterminator in the 666 Park Avenue also has the same destiny, so he doesn't make it to the end of the episode. But before he died, he managed to unseal the secret door in the laundry room, the one what Jane sees in her dreams, which are not the dreams. Talking about dreams, Jane goes to the laundry room, enters a secret door there, and gets to an apartment with a dead male body in there. We also meet a woman in her, 40s, I wanna say, who is desperately hunting for men, and Gavin hooks her up with some guy, but then she discovers that the guy is married and is a cheater, and she kills him. Turns out that it was not her first murder and that she killed already like 4 different guys before him. And Gavin, as he set her up with this guy, he was hoping for this kind of outcome because, as I understand, this was the guy who tried to sell him this property on a toxic wasteland. So he hoped that she would eliminate this person, and she did. And turns out that she is like 80 years old maybe, and that the guy Jane was dreaming about, he was her first victim. So marriage thing is discussed a little bit in the episode, obviously, as the central figure Daniel is the one who's left without a husband. Henry and Jane are asked questions about their plans together. We get to know that they've been going out for like 5 years, and yet Henry doesn't have the decency to say, "Sorry Jane, you're not my type, I don't see you as my wife," because otherwise I don't understand what's taking so long. As a matter of fact, I think now that the person with a hatchet in the first episode, the one that chased Jane in Nona's visions, was actually Henry after another question of when we are going to get married. That would be fun, actually. I also forgot to mention that Brian, the nerdy playwright, finally has sex with this girl across the street. I think he does have sex. It was actually very unclear. They kissed and then they switched to another scene. They could have just kissed. Probably they didn't. Probably it was something more than that. So I have a bunch of questions in my head, like what exactly Duran see in Henry? He doesn't seem anything special to me. Or why exactly Gavin needs all of his business rivals to be killed by the Drake's residents. I think he could have done everything himself. So why bother? Why go through all this fulfilling wishes if he just could kill people himself? But you know what? I am not really desperate to know answers to those questions because, as I said, the show is so boring, really. It ended on a scary, let's say scary, note. So Jane enters the door that the exterminator unsealed, and it closes right behind her. I don't know what happens next. Maybe she is gonna be locked up there for a while, which is good. She has to think about all the wrong she did to the poor birds. So I guess this is all that I have to say at this point about this show. If it was cancelled, I wouldn't regret. I'm extremely disappointed. Right guys, thank you for watching. Have a nice time.